Whoa, that was sick, dude. You rock so hard, Spidey!
Look, I don't have a PS5 to experience the newer Spider-Man games, but that's okay, because the best Spider-Man game came out in 2004, and I have plenty of ethical and legal ways of playing my legitimately purchased copy. We'll be using PCSX2 for this one, and other than the few pre-rendered cutscenes in the game running like this due to the 60 FPS patch,
now you see why I can't be with you. It wouldn't be fair.
Playing this at 4K 60 FPS seems like the way to go.
I have standards after all.
This is the most unintentionally hilarious game that I've ever played. Every layer of its presentation, from the voice acting,
I know you think Spider-Man killed your dad.
He did kill my dad.
to the instant ragdolling of every character whenever they take a hit, puts a smile on my face like no other game I've played.
Next time you ambush someone, check if he's a superhero first.
And the best part is that it's actually a pretty fun game. This isn't a so bad it's funny situation, it's a pretty competent and ambitious game, due in no small part to it being developed by a little studio that goes by Treyarch. Yeah, you know, those guys that develop nothing but Call of Duty now?
You're fired!
Yeah, there was a time where they actually made other games, one of them being an ambitious open-world superhero game. Let me set the stage for you guys. Here's a little reminder of what licensed games looked like around this time. Around this time, games that were being made to appeal to a popular IP, especially movie tie-in games, were almost guaranteed to be shovelware garbage, akin to something that would show up in one of my eShop videos.
Yeah, well, I don't tend to run away from my past. I stay and deal with things.
Damn, there's a whole other thing going on here.
And then there was Treyarch, who said, you know what? Why don't we try to make something that feels like you're actually playing the movie for yourself? That's not a real quote, but I imagine that's what they were thinking.
Tell him that next time you see him.
Yeah, well...
Spider-Man 2 aimed to match the cinematic experience of the movie of the same year, and that starts at the top with the voice acting.
I'm seeing someone now. A guy.
Oh. Really? Huh.
Some of the main cast from the movie also make an appearance here, most notably Peter Parker himself. I don't think there's any debate that Tobey Maguire is the best Peter Parker, and you can expect all of his quirks and features in this game.
You always chase girls who brush you off?
No. Only the naughty ones.
These aren't just audio clips from the movie, by the way. This is all original content for the game itself, and while the game is generally faithful to the plot lines from the movie, it adds its own characters from the Marvel Universe to really open up the creativity in the story. One of these characters being Black Cat, which I had to remind myself wasn't actually in the movie.
Someone shoot me now.
Stalking girls now? Well, that's pretty pathetic, don't you think?
She fits in the game so well that I could have easily seen this being part of the original story. And the same goes for the other villains in the game, who have their own progression playing alongside the story beats that you would see in the movie. Again, if you're coming from any of the modern Spider-Man games, this probably isn't very impressive to you. But you gotta remember that this is coming from a time where well-written stories in a movie tie-in game generally were an afterthought in projects like this.
Come on, work!
Problems with your laser back? I hear there are pills for that now.
Special announcement.
Like and subscribe for more trash.
So with such a well thought out story as a jumping off point in Spider-Game 2, it may not come as a surprise that the gameplay is also pretty well done, but the scope of the game sure as hell was a surprise to me. I haven't touched Spider-Man 2 in 20 years up until now, so seeing just how damn well this game holds up really is a treat. On the surface, the gameplay is your standard 3D beat 'em up fanfare, but calling this a beat 'em up is like calling GTA a third-person shooter. In GTA, you have a sprawling world that you can explore in vehicles, and in Spider-Man 2, you have a sprawling world that you can explore with web slinging. For context, the first Spider-Man game on consoles, including the PS1 original, was a level-by-level beat-em-up with very basic web slinging. It was nothing more than a means of travel from level to level, but in Spider-Man 2, it's an entire mechanic and arguably the most important element in the gameplay.
The next thing I want you to do is jump off the building. Hey, I wouldn't tell you to do something dangerous and life-threatening, would I? Come on.
You're almost immediately introduced to the web swinging in the beginning of the game, where you'll notice that, unlike its predecessors, the web swinging actually sticks to nearby buildings as you travel, leaving you to fight gravity and keep your momentum going. For the first time in a Spider-Man game, you're actually able to move around like Spider-Man. It's a mechanic that works so damn good that it's still being replicated 20 years later in the newest games, and this is where it all started. Granted, there is a bit of a learning curve to it, and you don't magically gravitate over obstacles like in the newest games, but I think that just adds to the experience in a way. It's satisfying to pull off smooth maneuvers around the city that weren't just done by the game holding your hand, and it's the type of movement that just sucks you into the gameplay loop. It makes you want to ignore the objectives and just explore the world. Did I mention that this is an open world game?
Nice going. Now get back to the arcade owner. You know, you should check out some of the games he's got too.
Yeah, you can freely explore a slice of New York on a full day-night cycle in between completing the story, which is way more fun to explore than it has any right being. Don't let the data graphics fool you. This is a pretty sizable map considering that this came out in 2004, and unlike GTA, your character's flying around at light speed, weaving around buildings, and moving around with a level of verticality that was unlike anything else at the time. And on top of that, the world is pretty detailed with bustling streets filled with traffic, recognizable landmarks, and even iterable interiors on almost every other block.
Hi guys, I'm here to beat you up.
Sometimes these are used as gang hideouts or storefronts, but again, they're more detailed than they have any right being. You can even enter landmark areas in the universe like the Daily Bugle and Peter's apartment, which have been faithfully recreated from the movie. Elements like this had me getting so immersed that I forgot that I was in the game. And somehow, they had this running on a GameCube. Technology's crazy, dude. It's the type of world that could have you exploring for hours, and as you're exploring this bustling city, naturally there's gonna be some crime to stop.
Spidey, you have to stop those robbers. They're holding up an armored car.
Crime doesn't pay.
Whatever!
You can choose to intervene in random events that'll play out as you're traveling around, or you can ignore them if you don't feel like being the hero that day.
The boat, it's sinking! Someone, help!
I missed the part where that's my problem.
You don't have to give the kid their balloon back. They shouldn't have let it go in the first place.
Balloon, come back!
There's also people to help that'll trigger mini missions like stopping an armored truck robbery or helping a guy to a hospital.
He needs to go to the hospital.
Oh, the pain. Make it stop.
You'll need to do some of these missions to gain hero points to progress in the story, and they can get a little repetitive, but they're paced out well enough to never get too annoying. You also, of course, have the best minigame of all, the pizza delivery.
You need to pull over and calm down.
Where nobody questions Spider-Man delivering them their pizza. Side missions like this and the time trials around the map are mostly optional, but you'll need to do some of these for some extra hero points if you want to upgrade your moveset.
Tell my wife I loved her.
Both combat and web swinging have ability upgrades that you can purchase as you move up in the story, which, like almost every other element in the game, are paced out fantastically. There's always one little extra thing to unlock that'll make the combat a little more fun or the traversal a little faster. There's even aerial tricks that you can get just for the hell of it. They could have just put in a basic combat system and left it at that, but as it turns out, unlocking an ability to turn your legs into helicopter blades is a little more fun than just sticking to your basic punching and kicking.
You're pretty tough for such a scrawny little guy.
The combat gives me some of the most fun I've had in the game while also being the weakest link in the experience. On one hand, it's surprising just how close the combat in this game is with modern games like Sleeping Dogs and even the current Spider-Man titles. You have your punch, kick, and web attack, which can be combined for various combo moves, as well as your Spidey sense that'll cue you in on when to dodge incoming attacks. You also have a meter that fills up that allows you to go into a bullet time slow mode to perform special combos and block more intricate attacks. The biggest fun from the combat in this game comes from ragdolling crowds of enemies and pulling off the most vile attacks that you'll ever commit as Spider-Man, because in this game, Spider-Man really doesn't give a f***, dude.
Hey buddy, can you give me a lift? I left my wallet in my other costume.
You can pick up enemies and toss them off of buildings or into incoming traffic. You can pile drive them from 200 feet in the air. Or you can make your enemies shoot each other with their own weapons. And if that wasn't enough, the bodies stick around after they get knocked out for you to keep wailing on in front of bystanders if you want.
Is that a horn on your head, or are you just glad to see me?
Let me go!
Lucky for you, I pull my punches.
This can lead to dynamic gameplay moments that play out hilariously.
Spidey, you have to help me. Oh no, they're here. Ah!
I think where the gameplay starts to fall a little more flat is in the interior segments of this game. Since so much of the focus of this game is on the open environment, navigating and fighting in smaller corridors just doesn't play out as well. The same could be said about the boss battles that boiled down to the cliche blocking and attacking in specific intervals while running around to hit triggers to turn off shields. Even with those complaints about the combat, I still think the game as a whole is really fun. And that's not even touching on all of the little immersive elements that suck you into the game, like the orchestral soundtrack weaving itself in between the cutscenes and the gameplay, or Peter Parker having a monologue with himself at the end of a chapter as he silently swings throughout the city. All of these elements come together to create a really fun game that was honestly ahead of its time. The immersive elements and the silly experiences almost mirror the movies, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
Was that as good for you as it was for me?
The main story took me about 6 hours to complete, not including side contents or collectibles that could definitely bump up the gameplay time. Once you beat the story, you're free to explore the city, and there's some post-game content to unlock, as well as achievements hiding in the game's menu, which I thought was pretty interesting. It's kind of surprising to me that this game hasn't been made available on modern platforms, considering just how damn influential it was. It was definitely ahead of its time, and it's still fun to play today, despite the dated graphics. It's just another example of how if we don't preserve these games for future generations, they'll probably just get lost to time. Now I need to go play Spider-Man 3 for the first time. I'm pretty sure that game is just going to throw everything I said about this one out the window, but I guess we'll see.
Spider-Man, those walking tanks are shooting up everything. Oh, you gotta stop them before it's too late.
I don't want